You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Hi, everyone, and thanks so much for joining me here today on another Cabral Concept. We are about to get started with our Total Wellness Tuesday show, and we're going to dedicate this show to those people who always feel like they're the most sensitive out there, that they have the itchy eyes or the itchy skin or the digestive problems, or they get the headaches, they get the watery eyes, the red eyes. Sometimes they feel a little bit groggy. Sometimes they feel like they're a little bit more irritable. They wake up a little bit fatigued. They get flushing of the skin. Sometimes they have some bloating. Sometimes they have acne, but the body always seems to just not be perfectly in sync, and they can't figure out why it is. So if you know anyone in your life, whether you're working with them as an integrative health practitioner, or you are a doctor, or you're a health coach, or a personal trainer, or a friend, family member, and you know someone that is that sensitive person, right? Everything is kind of like, nothing's totally wrong, but there's these little nagging things that always seem to be bothering them. Well, this show will hopefully clear up why those things happen. And we like to think of it in natural health and natural medicine from the perspective that those people are essentially dealing with chronic inflammation. And you might say, well, sure, I know about inflammation. I've heard about inflammation. Everything's about inflammation. And I agree. So inflammation doesn't really tell you what's going on with them. But you know they're suffering from some type of chronic inflammatory dis-ease of the body. And it's showing itself as the low blood pressure or even high blood pressure, the itchy eyes, itchy skin, itchy ears, itchy nose, the red eyes, the watery eyes, the hives sometimes, getting a little lightheaded or dizzy upon standing. Maybe they have some congestion or year-round allergies or congestion or seasonal allergies. They get a lot of headaches. Sometimes it could even become migraines or tension headaches. Or they have sometimes flushing of the skin even after they eat, or if they go too long without eating, or if they get very stressed. They might have rosacea. They might have a lot of bloating or acid reflux or heartburn. So what I want to do is to be able to show you, and I've said it before, but I really want to show you that there's always a reason why. Like the bottom line is there's always a reason why. Whatever you're dealing with, there's a reason why you're dealing with it. The problem is we just don't know most of the time what it is that ails us, or why we can't lose the weight. And that's because we just haven't looked deep enough. But I'm telling you right now, the reason why I'm doing this show is even if this isn't an issue of yours, you can begin to see the process of how to heal your body. So let's take it from the top. All of those symptoms I just named are very normal, okay? Or I should say very common, but not normal, not in a healthy body, but very common amongst our population. And that's because over time, people do become chronically inflamed. And that is part of what we call Th2 immune system dominance. But not just that. What we're looking to talk about specifically is something that I brought to you just a couple weeks ago. And it was on episode 1264. I hope you checked out that show. That was the new anti-inflammatory low amine diet. And today I want to talk about those amines, or today I want to talk to you about histamine, because I told you that I would follow up with a show to let you know that you don't need to eliminate these high amine foods your entire life. What you need to do is figure out why they're affecting you and then go about healing that. And we can do that. That's why people are always saying, oh, I need to be on a low lectin diet. I need to be on a low phytic acid diet, a low salicylate diet. I need to be on a low oxalate diet. Like everything. Yes, that's because there's these sensitivities. However, there's a reason why. So let's go through that. So one of the ones that I just want to focus on today is how the immune system works, just for a minute, and show you that one of those immune markers, namely something produced by the mast cells called histamine, which is one of those amines, and it's flared up by mast cells, basophils, eosinophils, things that you might have heard about when you get your blood work done with your doctor, and they create an inflammatory immune response in the body. Now, there's a reason why they're being produced. We need to figure that out. So here's why they are produced by the body, because a lot of people think, well, I just need to shut down my immune system with some biological drugs so that I don't have all these histamines. Well, that's not the answer, because the histamines wouldn't be there if there wasn't an issue in the first place. And the reason is that what essentially happens is your blood vessels, histamines allow them to dilate. And when they dilate, they basically like blow up as they get bigger, not actually blow up, but as they get bigger, it allows the immune cells, the white blood cells, to then actually go to work, do what they need to do to kill any bacteria that may be there or anything that's fermenting, anything like that. They can go to work and really begin to heal the body. So your immune system's not messing up. There's a reason why histamine, which also acts as a central nervous system neurotransmitter, begins to get heightened. And I'm going to go through that right now. So what I'd like you to do is just understand that there's some type of toxin or some type of breakdown in the methylation pathway, which we'll go over. All that's fixable, even if you have those poor genetics, right? All of it's fixable as to why this happens, okay? So let's go over it now. There is some type of toxicity. There's some type of thing going on. And here are the typical reasons. Biggest reasons are this. I'm going to get into the genetics in just a moment. Biggest reasons are you have some type of gut dysbiosis. And that means dysbiosis. It's a great word. I love the word dysbiosis. But all it means is an imbalance. It means you have more of the negative bacteria that shouldn't be there and less of the good stuff that's going to produce less histamines. I'm actually going to give you those strains in just a second. Or you might have an increased load of candida overgrowth. And because of this, when you take in higher histamine foods, I want you to link back. I'm not even going to go through those higher histamine foods because I need you to always have them in context. People on social media all the time just say, just list what I need to know. It doesn't work that way. It never works that way. If I give somebody the list, they're not going to do anything with it. And honestly, they don't have the context. That's why when you listen to the podcast, you get context with it. So you know why to do it and why you won't have to do it the rest of your life. It's super important to realize that. But what happens is when you have this dysbiosis of the gut and you have damaged villi, which the villi are actually the little finger-like structures. They're microscopic in the intestines. They help to break down nutrients. They help to make more nutrients. And one of the things that they also do is they're responsible for producing a enzyme which actually breaks down histamine. But again, if you have those blunted villi, you're not going to be able to produce this enzyme called DAO, diamine oxidase. And diamine oxidase is a natural enzyme that we would produce just like we would produce amylase to break down starches. That then allows us to degrade that so they don't become an issue in the body. They don't build up. They don't fill up our rain barrel. But what happens is because of the H. pylori, the SIBO, the candida, or even parasites, our intestinal flora gets imbalanced. Flora just means the bacteria, like a garden. And our intestinal wall, which includes those little villi, get inflamed. So what we need to do is actually begin to rebalance the gut flora. There is nothing more important than that. A lot of people kind of don't go deep enough when it comes to these specialty diets. The low oxalate, the low lectin, the low, I call it salicylate, but the low salicylate diet, the low amine diet. They all matter. They can all provide benefit, but we're going to follow that for the rest of your life? I hope not. Now, you might have to follow it to a degree because you might just be susceptible. However, you can still eat those foods. What we need to do is take the 12 weeks or so to repair the gut. And that's not a lot of time. 12 weeks the rest of your life, it's really not a bad trade. It's honestly not. So here's what we want to do. The bacteria that begin to overgrow, I'm going to give you a few of these today, that are really responsible for producing more histamine are a lot of I'm going to give you one straight off the bat. Lactobacillus casei, all right? So it's C-A-S-E-I, casei or casei. Lactobacillus bulgaricus, Lactobacillus lactis, Enterococcus faecalis, and then multiple types of the E. coli-based bacteria. Now remember, we're supposed to have those bacteria in our gut. They're not bad bacteria. But when they overgrow, then they are bad bacteria. Believe it or not, you're even supposed to have E. coli in your gut. Helps with B12, helps with vitamin K. So we need it. Just can't have it overgrown. How do you find that? Well, you can run a stool test to see if it's overgrown. What about beneficial bacteria that we need to build back up that would then help us to degrade more of these histamines, to produce more of the diamine oxidase? Well, right off the bat, Bifidobacterium infantis, that's the one we're supposed to get. When we're infants, that's part of where it comes from our mom. Not everybody gets that passed on. Bifidobacterium brevi, or brevi, it's often referred to as. Bifidobacteria longum. Lactobacillus plantarum, one of my favorites. Lactobacillus rhamnus. Lactobacillus salivarius. Lactobacillus gasseri. Those are just a few. There are more probiotics. Just for example, Lactobacillus acidophilus. You need that because that then does not allow for other bacteria to begin to overgrow, especially in the small intestine. It's why it's one of the cornerstones of our CBO protocol. So we know we need to work on that. We also need to find out if we have candida overgrowth in the gut. Because if we have candida overgrowth in the gut, not only are those toxins poisoning our bloodstream, but those candida spores actually take up their own space. And if you have an overgrowth of candida, that means that you are not going to have balanced bacteria in the gut, or you're going to have a gut overgrown with flora. So think of a garden with all of your beautiful fruits and vegetables, brightly colored, ready, getting ripe for you to pick. And you also then have weeds and all sorts of other things drawing up hydration and water and nutrients out of the soil that you're not able to then take advantage of. So the goal with the gut, remember, there's 100 trillion cells down there, and there's only 40 trillion cells of you. So when we look at it, there are more bacteria and flora in the gut than there are human cells in the body. And what we don't need is a massive overgrowth that imbalances the entire garden, that allows you to absorb all of your nutrients. So it's very, very important. And that's why, I can't recommend enough running the organic acids test, running the stool test. Actually look at what is going on with your gut. Is there parasite overgrowth? Is there H. pylori? Is there candida overgrowth? Is there Clostridium difficile overgrowth? Is there good bacteria, but that good bacteria is overgrown? Because too much good bacteria is not a good thing. It's a bad thing. So that's what we look at. And I'll tell you right now, this is, if you have anything wrong with you, honestly, anything wrong, mental, physical, you need to look at where the body starts in terms of feeding itself, mind and body. And when I say mind, it's because your mind still needs those proper neurotransmitters. If someone is inflamed and they have histamine issues like we're talking about right now, they're lower mood, they have more irritability, they have more anger, they have more rage. That's what goes along with this as well. So just look at the gut. That's all I'm saying. The other part is this. I'm going to get to genetics. Well, I'll get to genetics in just a moment. But we need to make sure that our liver is properly detoxing. Because when we are looking to break down histamines, everything needs an enzyme. So I want you to think about that. When you want to break down proteins, you use proteases, and you use hydrochloric acid and pepsin in the stomach. When you want to break down starches, you'll use amylase, or you'll use something like cellulase to break down cellulose, of fiber in vegetables. And if you want to break down fats, you'll use lipase, right? So all I'm saying is there's an enzyme that breaks everything down, and everything in nature has this too. So when an apple falls to the ground, and it hits and it crushes some of those cells, well, the actual enzymes begin to then break down the apple and degrade the apple so that it decomposes. So what we need is our own histamine enzymes. We already talked about one, which is diamine oxidase. But there's also an enzyme in your liver. There's no test at the end of today's podcast, but there's an enzyme in your liver called histamine N-methyltransferase. So histamine N methyl transferase. And the methyl should hopefully give it away that you need to be able to have proper methylation pathways. And I'll do a future show on this as well. But we talked about methylation-based issues all the time. So there's so many people that I work with, myself being one of them, with MTHFR and methylation-based mutations in their genes, and it leaves you more susceptible. Does that mean that you need to live with these issues the rest of your life? No, it does not. So don't let any doctor who's learned a little bit about genetics or any practitioner tell you, oh, you have this gene, you're going to have to live with this for the rest of your life. That is called the nocebo effect. That means they're putting this thought in your head that you're going to be sick with this for the rest of your life. Many doctors did this to me when I was younger. Don't let them do it to you. I don't have the issues I had when I was younger. I still have the same genetics. So what happened was I learned how to work with my genes instead of always trying to fight against them. So I make sure now I have enough magnesium, B6, B12, folate, vitamin C, zinc, in order to fully methylate and relax that nervous system as well. Because we're going to get into one more part before we just talk about, so we talked a little bit about the genetics right there because some people have MTHFR gene mutations. But one thing we have to realize too is that when we get stressed, that's why I can't do a podcast without talking about this high cortisol, right? Or high stress in general. And again, you can check your stress levels now. We're in the day and age where all of this is be able to be figured out. You can run a thyroid adrenal hormone or just an adrenal hormone test. Look at your cortisol, right? Look at your DHEA. It's going to tell you how strong is that nervous system, right? Central nervous system affecting the autonomic nervous system, which is ramping up either fight or flight or the parasympathetic nervous system. You can also see it on an HTMA. It won't tell you your exact cortisol levels, but it will show you your stress levels, show your levels of calcium to magnesium and sodium to potassium. So what happens, though, is when we do get highly stressed, we are also increasing inflammation. And as we begin to increase inflammation, it can also begin to facilitate the release of additional mast cells, which could then further produce more inflammation, histamines, and essentially degradation, breakdown of our body. And now we just look at it as, oh, my eyes are a little itchy. Maybe it's a food. Could absolutely be a food. Absolutely. And what we'll try to do is link up some of those histamine podcasts. Or could be a gut issue along with the food that you ate. Or it could be high levels of stress. Again, we need to see why it's happening for you. But we know what's going on. We know it's an over-exaggeration of the immune system. So conventional medicine will let you think, oh, you just need to shut down your immune system so you don't get the rheumatoid arthritis or the Hashimoto's or the MS or the you name it. But why? Well, can we just stop for a second and ask why the over-exaggerated immune system in the first place? Did it really just go haywire? Well, most likely not. Most likely not. There's some type of triggering event or events going on that's not allowing you to empty that rain barrel on a daily basis, and it's only causing it to fill up and fill up and fill up. And you see all the symptoms. Again, no one's telling you. The irregular or the accelerated heart rate, the itchy eyes, the red eyes, the brain fog, the migraines, the headaches, the rosacea, the skin itchiness, and the hives. And I probably mentioned hives a few times now because we have so many people with those as well. But again, you have to realize that there is an underlying root cause. There is a reason why, and we're going through it right now. So what I want you to realize is that as hopefully you're listening to the podcast, you're understanding that there are systems within the body that are actually, they're not working against us. They're fighting against something like the bacterial overgrowth or the H. pylori or the toxicity, the liver overload, the lack of B vitamins, the lack of vitamin C, all of that. I mean, those are just some of those scenarios. But it's also why it's not a million things to figure out. It's honestly not. Like, there's not a ton to figure out. It's just pinpointing, what do you need? What do we need to fix? So we can test. We've already talked about those tests. The organic acids test, hands down, if you're only going to choose one, it's that one. And the stool test. If you can do another one, the hair tissue mineral analysis. If you can do another one, the thyroid adrenal hormone. If you can do another one, the IgG food sensitivity test. And if you can do one more, the omega-3 test. You don't have to do them all, but choose the ones. I mean, if your issues, if you have bloating, if you have some heartburn, well, run an organic acids test. Run a stool test. If you have a lot of stress, well, could it be stress too? Run a hair tissue mineral analysis. Run the starter kit, which is the organic acids test with the hair tissue mineral analysis. Or run the thyroid adrenal hormone and the organic acids test. Do what makes sense for you. The whole point of the Cabral concept and the whole point of us trying to help people all around the world is to allow you to feel empowered. I want the knowledge to be there for you, and then it's your decision. It's your body. It's your decision. Don't ever put your power into another person's hands. It's your personal power. Don't give it to your doctor, your health practitioner. Don't give it to your spouse. Don't give it to anybody. It's your body. You're with you 168 hours a week. Nobody else is. Okay. Get the education. Ask others for their advice. Make the best decision. Get the protocol that you need to heal. Speak with a health coach. Do whatever that you need. But again, really understand that this is all able to be fixed. So what we're going to do is we're going to figure out what's going on with the body. Then we're going to reduce those high histamine foods, at least in the beginning. And I have a podcast on that, and I give you all of those foods. So I will link that up today. Then we're going to go about really healing the gut. No matter what, you really have to go back to that. You need to heal the gut. And if you can't run the labs, you're going to at least get right in that CBO protocol. Use the citricidal drops on top if needed. Then you're going to do the CBO finisher to seal up that gut wall. Do your daily smoothie in the morning. Again, really nourish your body. If you believe you have some liver-based issues and that you're not able to really degrade them and get them out of your body, do a functional medicine detox. Start there. It's the best place to start. Do a 21-day detox. Honestly, it's life-changing. It's what got me also back on track. Realizing that I was doing everything well, but I needed to really empty that rain barrel. It's an amazing thing to do. And if you still continue that, you feel like you have methylation-based issues, or if you have an MTHFR marker that's a little off, well, take your zinc. Take your activated B complex. Take your magnesium. For the most part, it's going to be enough. It really is. Just that alone, right? And then I also want you to begin thinking about, do you need some extras? That's the foundation. Well, if you need something to reduce histamine, there's a product called Hist Pro. We'll link it up today. Specialty product. Not a lot of people know about it. We've been using it for years. Why? Well, because it contains things like quercetin. And when you use that along with vitamin C and your omega-3 support, you're going to get proven functional medicine and orthomolecular medicine nutrients to work for you. Quercetin has been around since the dawn of time, but we know the dosage that's needed and what helps to degrade those sensitivities, namely histamines. So it's a great product. I'm going to link that up. But again, you can read the label. You never have to get anything that I'm recommending you specifically, but you should know why things work. Products don't work. Okay? Names don't work. Ingredients work that are third-party tested to know that, hey, what I'm getting is in that. That's what works. That's what works, right? Nature already provided us with what we need. And then, of course, just making sure that you are not always overloading the body, that you're giving your body that 12-hour overnight fast, maybe a little bit longer. But you're stopping eating dinner at a certain time each night. And if you haven't listened to this podcast, because I know that I'm up against my time today, I would love you to check out the podcast. Last week, it was episode 1272 on the 7 warning signs of inflammation overload. Okay, so I can give you those. And then go back one more day. 1271. I want you to check that out. The 5 steps to simplifying your nutrition. One of the more popular shared podcasts in a while. And it's because it's meant for those people that may have strayed, but they have the education, or people that are just looking to get into eating a healthy-based diet. So check that out. We are going to link up the histamine-based food shows. We're going to link up, hopefully, the 5 steps to simplifying your nutrition. And I'd love you to check out those shows. But remember, today's show is this. There are people out there that are far more sensitive than others, but there's always a reason why. And even though you're prone to it, doesn't mean you need to live with it. If this message was helpful, if this show is helpful, please do feel free to pass along to anyone else you believe it could serve. Take care, everyone. Have an amazing day. Ever wonder what the best sauna, blue blockers, sleep trackers, wake lights, salt lamps, or other health gadgets are? Or what about the top non-toxic mattresses, sheets, soaps, bath products, toothpaste, and cookware? Or would you like to know the cleanest choices for hemp parts, meal delivery services, supplements, and much more? I personally curated, researched, and now created a resource page of all of my top picks that continues to grow each week. These are the exact products I use in my own life, with my family, in my private practice, and they're the ones I trust. To find out all of my up-to-date recommendations and all the details, simply head on over to stephencabral.com/resources.